Well, I would play out fantasies like I'm gonna slash that person's tires. We're gonna become better people along the way, which is dope.
Yeah, it is.
Like, it doesn't get better than that. Let's go. The worst thing that you can do is punish someone when they do something good for you.
I was like, these people probably think I'm crazy. And then I was like, you know what? It's fine. It doesn't matter if they think I'm crazy. Yeah. They have no idea what I'm doing. Yeah. I barely know what I'm doing here, but it doesn't matter. Like,
if you're a weirdo, I am too. That's just how it is. You know what I mean? We have to deal with it. Where there is the possibility for genuine connection, we should make sure that, like, that stays that way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to feel alone, and it's going to be because we've slowly been burning bridges. Forget all that.
They're totally different.
Yeah, you're talking 2D. Let's go 3D. Robots and aliens and pew pew, and you get to choose the character you play in, like, the play or the movie that is your life. You get to choose the costume. You get to choose, like, the dialogue. You get to choose the quirks. Like, let's kind of see this in the perspective of, like, a movie or a show or a play that we like. Those characters are constructed.
Yeah.
Why can't you be? Like, in the best ways possible. We're about to get canceled, you know what I mean? For, like, a biological reality.
No, it's okay. Like, no, thank you. Like, thanks. You know.
Hello. My name is Josue Feliciano. Over the past year, I've been working as a life coach, helping over 25 people to meaningfully improve their lives. Now, while I could sit here and tell you all about it, I think it's better that I just show you. And so, that's what we're going to do. One of my clients, Kabrina, has graciously agreed to be recorded for one of our sessions. Together, we take her from not really knowing where to begin to feeling confidently equipped to handle the problems in her life. And this was actually recorded a little bit ago, and I've been able to see the progress that she's made, and it has been drastically for the better. If you want even more reasons to be excited, you actually have the opportunity of getting 5 free coaching sessions. If you want to find out how, stick around and watch the video. For now, let's jump into the session. Hello, Kabrina.
Hello.
So, how are you doing today?
Not terrible. I'm pretty exhausted.
Okay.
My students
work
were
a lot
today.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's see. What did we have you work on? If I was a professional, I'd just like have this, like pulled up or whatever. Actually, I remember we talked about the Fresh Start framework.
Yeah.
And we were kind of going through that, and things like that. You've kind of already reported on your homework from last week.
Yeah.
That you were feeling better. You did the things that we put on your list, and things are just good.
Yeah, it definitely helped a lot to, like, go through it last week with you, look at, like, the 8 aspects of total wellness and just kind of, like, be like, which one am I lacking in? Which one do I need more in? And doing it that night, I really feel like it really helped. So I feel like I've been doing better. Yeah, it was
cool.
It was helpful. So it's good. It's helping me to just do it a little bit more on my own instead of just, like, relying on you. But
sure. Yeah, and I actually wanted to touch on that because it can very easily seem like once you've, like, learned a thing, even if you have, like, a resource, like we have the course in the community, where it's just like, hey, like, this should be enough or, like, whatever. But taking that intentional time going through things again is cool. It takes a while for things to really get, like, deep-seated to the point where you practically don't even have to think about it, where it just becomes a reflex. It's not even a reflex for me, and I'm the one who put it together. Like, I've looked at that thing more than anybody has, like, probably, like, triple or quadruple the amount of times that anyone else has. And even so, it's still not. So there's no issue with that,
Yeah.
And if you need it, you need it. That's what we're here to do. So, what I want to check in with you on is what's been going on this week. Are there things that in particular that you go, whoa, this is what I would really like to kind of touch on this time?
I feel like I don't know, it hasn't been a terrible week. I feel like the assignment that you gave, like, in our, like, in the community, kind of, like, threw me a little bit. The one about, like, getting outside of our comfort zone.
Yeah. Why did it throw you? What do you, like, tell me more about that.
I don't know. I just feel like I kept trying to come up with things to do outside my comfort
Mm-hmm.
zone.
Mm-hmm.
And then every time I would like do something that was like slightly notable, I would just be like, yeah, but like, was that really getting outside my comfort zone?
Mm-hmm.
Or was that just, I don't know, like, was it worth noting?
Mm-hmm.
Was I trying to come up with something, you know?
Sure.
So, I mean, what I ended up doing this morning, like,
Mm-hmm.
and going to that lookout and stuff, that was like big
Yeah.
for me because
Yeah.
I've like literally told myself to go up there for over a year. Like every
Yeah.
time I pass, but you can only go up there from one side of the highway. You can't go from the opposite side.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to go when I'm leaving or going somewhere versus
Yeah.
like when I'm coming back and I have more time.
Yeah.
So
That
I had
makes
to be like,
sense.
very intentional to
Interesting. Yeah.
go. But like I'm really glad I did it, even though like it was kind of low key disappointing because
Yeah.
you couldn't really see. It said it was a scenic like overlook, but there you couldn't really see like over
Yeah.
anything. It was just
Okay.
like a lot of
Well.
grass, so that was interesting. But like that felt worth noting. I felt like I tried. I like thought through it. I like
Mm-hmm.
woke up this morning. I was like, you might be running late, but it's fine. Just do this. Like
Yeah.
you want to do this. You've been
Yeah.
thinking about it. Like just try it. But I don't know. Like I felt like I was just kind of overthinking the whole getting out of my comfort zone thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, and I think that makes sense. Something that comes to mind with that is this idea that there are things that are extraordinary that we can do, but because we do them all the time, we take them for granted. You know, like I remember I used to play music with this guy who's super good at guitar. I don't know if I've told you about him, but he was super good at guitar. And he would go like, oh, I'm like not that good. And I'm like, dude, compared to like the average person, which the average person does not play guitar, you're amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, sure, you're not Jimi Hendrix, but that's okay. Like, start somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, show it off. Like, this is really cool. And so I think that that's one of the things that can get in our head going like, this isn't that notable.
Yeah.
But it's all about getting into the mindset of somebody else, getting into the mindset of maybe just the average person, or at least the average person who's within the community, and going, what might be impressive to them? I don't know.
Yeah. That is true.
And the other thing that comes to mind is I'm glad that you actually did it. You're in the like stark minority, at least for now. We still have some time before the challenge is over. But I appreciate that you did that, because even with what you put out there, it could come under criticism. Of going like, okay, cool. Like you even said it's disappointing. Why are you telling us about, like, we can be very judgmental to ourselves, but this is why I had it so that there's like this deadline. Like anyone who comes to the next call who hasn't done it has to like face the fact that there are people in the call who did.
Yeah.
And ultimately doing it, and this applies to like so many things, but ultimately doing something.
Yeah.
Even if you don't do it well, even if the results are disappointing, the fact that you did it is the most important thing.
Yeah. I think the results, like, I would say like the experience was disappointing because it wasn't exactly what I anticipated being up in the scenic overlook.
Yeah.
But I think the feeling I got wasn't disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
could you remind me about that feeling?
Like I
and like
felt
why
really,
you had it?
Yeah, like I felt alive because I tried. Like I overcame something that was in my head that I was like, I might not be safe doing this, or like I don't know. Like there's so many things you can come up with to talk yourself out of just like being alone on the side of a highway.
Sure.
But yeah, even though the experience kind of was like, okay, the feeling that I got from like overcoming that and just being like, Kabrina, you can do this, and like talking myself through it, and just like finding the good in it. Like there's a really, really pretty tree on my drive out, and so I took a picture of that tree, and I was like, oh, that was a really pretty tree. So yeah, it was less about the experience and more about just like the feeling of actually doing it and like accomplishing it and following through with it. That was awesome.
Yeah. It's kind of like there's this separation between like the inputs and the outputs. Right? Like you did the work. How good the scenic overlook is, like how scenic it is like its own thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I like that you haven't allowed the kind of the disappointment of like nature in this case. Or maybe false advertising, more that. Like,
Yeah.
why advertise it as a scenic overlook if it's like, it's a small field of grass?
Yeah, it was. It was
You know, it's not like, oh wow, the hills are alive with it. No, you know, we have time for like a 1 minute song here. Okay, like come on.
yeah.
But I like that you didn't allow that to then color the entire experience. And
Yeah.
instead, you're like, hold on, there's something good here.
Yeah.
I
I
did it.
also kept like talking myself through it because there was like other cars parked nearby, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
this has to be the silliest thing from the outside
Mm-hmm.
because I drove up. I'm in like my teacher clothes. My hair was wet because I didn't feel like blow drying it. I
Mm-hmm.
like run out to this thing, and then I kind of like took a picture and like stood there for a few minutes and ran back to my car.
Let's
And
go.
I was like, these people probably think I'm crazy. And then I was like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? It's fine. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if they think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
They have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I barely know what I'm doing here, but it doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
I'm never going to see them again. I really don't care what they think. But I literally had
Yeah.
to say that out loud in my car.
Yeah.
Because I was like, that probably looks kind of silly, but it's fine.
What's funny is I do the same thing. I will actively like talk myself through things, either in my head or out loud. If I'm alone, then it's definitely out loud, for sure. You know what I mean? But a lot of the things that you said, that you were kind of playing through your head, I think are good signs of like good mindsets as it relates to these things, right? Because we'll focus so much on, oh, what are they going to think? Just as like a default, I think, in society.
Yeah.
And I could get into like my thoughts as to why I could philosophize about it, but it's not super important. But going, hey, it kind of doesn't matter. I like that you said, like, even if they think this, it doesn't matter. You know? Because what I was going to say when you were saying that is, like, most people don't care. Like, people don't know you. You know what I mean? Like, they're thinking about them. They don't even notice you're there half the time.
Yeah. It's not like I really notice other
Yeah.
people that do that stuff. I mean, I might be
Yeah.
like, okay, someone's walking along the road. Like, I don't know. It just like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't take a lot of energy to put into what somebody else is doing at that moment, unless they're
Yeah.
like doing some strange things, you know.
Sure.
But, like
Yeah.
actual strange things.
Yeah. Not taking a picture of what was
Yeah.
at least advertised to be a
Yeah.
scenic overlook.
6:50 in the morning.
Yeah. No, but I agree. There's kind of this epidemic, I think, because of social media, of like main character syndrome, where everyone is focused on them. And there are negatives to that, but there are also positives to that, where like people just aren't focused on you in that way. Everyone is the star of their own show. Sounds good. Cool. Take advantage of it. You know?
I do think I need to do that a lot more. Like, one of the other things I was trying to do, like getting outside my comfort zone, was I went to my cousin's party over the weekend. And normally those things, I mean, it did give me a lot of anxiety, I'm not going to lie. Like, I left with a terrible stomach ache, but I was like, I still throughout it was like really trying to just like not care what other people thought of me. Like, I was making jokes, and even when they didn't land, I was like, it's fine, you know, like don't overthink it, because I was not the only one that wasn't landing jokes. And so like it was, you know, some people were super funny, some people weren't, like, but we were all just having a good time. And I think normally I can get so into my head at those kind of events, I'm just like, oh, it's fine, I'm just gonna sit here, or maybe I'm like too much, and then people are just like, I don't know what's happening. Like, what is she doing? But I felt like it was a good balance, and even though it was like stressful for me, it was also like a good thing to just be like, nobody else is focused on you. Because throughout, like, you can tell that like when other people are making jokes, or when other people are like looking around, that they really are concerned about themselves too. Like, everybody is really just worried about what other people think of them. And so it's a good reminder. But
like, it's so interesting. We'll be worried about like, wow, my hands are so sweaty, and they're like in your pockets, but like you're thinking about that while everyone else is like at the party also doing their things. No one notices.
No one knows.
You know what I mean? Like, even if you shake hands with someone and they go, wow, this person's hands were like really sweaty, like, what's the deal? You then forget about it the moment someone says like, hey, there's punch over there, like, whatever. You know what I mean? These things don't like stick the way that they do in our own heads about us. We think that we've completely like ruined our reputation or something. We're about to get canceled, you know what I mean? For like a biological reality. Like, Who cares? You know, it's just weird. It's
Yeah,
really
I tend
weird.
to like, if this was another thing I was trying to do this week, we'll see
Mm-hmm.
if I actually remember to do it the full week. But I tend to, if anybody gives me a compliment, I always have an excuse or I always have an
Mm.
explanation.
Mm-hmm.
And so if someone will be like, "Oh, your hair looks really good today," I'll be like, "Thanks, I didn't shower," or like there's always
Mm. You're
a
trying to like undercut it.
yeah, it's just like, or, "Oh, that's a really cute whatever, whatever," and it's like, "Oh, thanks, barely thought about it this morning, just threw it on," but it's like also showing that I don't plan. There's all
Mm-hmm.
these ways of doing it. Or, "Oh, you look really nice today," and it's just like, "Oh, no, it's okay," like, "No, thanks," and so something that I'm really trying to like switch is if somebody gives me a compliment, just like, "Oh, thank you so much," or give
Mm-hmm.
them one back instead of just like, "Oh, like this old thing," no, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
it's just like I tend to like not think they're like what they're saying is like legit, even though like
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't be discrediting them because they took time out and energy to like
Yeah.
compliment me. Um, or like I should also be helping by giving that to other people because I realize like even though I don't always know how to receive it,
Mm-hmm.
like I still appreciate it, but how
Yeah.
much am I giving that to other people,
Yeah.
that aren't children? Because I'm very easy. It comes very naturally to build little kids up,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't always come as naturally to build adults up.
Sure. Sure, sure, sure. I think that makes sense just for context, because you're a kindergarten teacher.
Yes, I'm a kindergarten teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Um,
out of context. That's weird, but
yeah, 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 yeah. So I just thought, let's do that. Let's cover it. I think something here is just having like a canned phrase. There's a YouTuber that I like who anytime she gets a compliment, she just says like thank you so much.
mm,
Like every time. Like it, and it sounds the same every time. And my guess, like I'm not trying to play armchair psychologist or anything like that, but it seems like it is kind of a canned phrase. But because she's like practiced it, it also seems very genuine. Like she's just like clearly very happy about that.
mm,
That like she got a compliment. So getting it to the point where you don't have to think in that moment because you're trying to break a default,
yeah, it's a
you know?
default. Yeah,
Yeah. And so you want to make that as easy as possible because we are creatures of habit and we are always going to take the easiest path when it comes to things. And so the goal is to make the environment around us, it doesn't apply as much to this, but in general, when we're trying to build good habits, when we're trying to break old ones, we want to make the environment so that it is hard to do the bad habit and it is
mm,
easy to do the good habit. So you don't have to think about it in that moment when there's the temptation or whatever it may be. And at least right now, the best thing I can think of is, like I said, having that canned phrase
yeah,
of just like, thank you so much. And it doesn't have to be that, but you do have to choose it ahead of time. What am I
yeah,
going to say every
yeah,
time until cool? Like for
yeah,
me, what I say is, yeah, I try. You know what I mean? It's kind of the
yeah,
exact opposite of what you said when you were mentioning the example of like, oh, you look so nice today. Like you picked like a nice dress or whatever. You go, oh, this old thing, or like what you had actually said. Because I was just about to say it. I just defaulted to that because you said it more recently. But you said, oh, I didn't even think about it.
yeah.
I instead will say like, yeah, no, I that was on purpose. Yeah, I did that. That was me. Thanks. Takes a bow. All that stuff, and that's just been my default for a while now. And so there are different options here, and you can choose whatever you think is going to work best.
hmm
One of the things that I'm like secretly working on, don't tell anybody, for the community is, and this is just like a fun sneak peek, but it's kind of based on this idea that like you get to choose the character you play in like the play or the movie that is your life. You get to choose the costume. You get to choose like the dialogue. You get to choose the quirks. Like, let's kind of see this in the perspective of like a movie or a show or a play that we like. Those characters are constructed.
Yeah,
Why can't you be? Like in the best ways possible. You know what I mean? And so what's cool about this is you get to choose what that default line is. I don't know. I don't want to spend too much time on that. I don't want to get like fixated on it, but I think that
that's cool. I'm excited to hear more about that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So just like actually, to round that out, I wanted to say, think about the person who you want people to know you as. You know, for me, I kind of like being like leaning towards the like braggadocious, like a little bit, because I know that like for the majority, I what I've heard, because let me say it that way, because otherwise I don't know. But I come off as like a genuine, like heartfelt person. So then me coming out with like that little bit of like, yeah, I know, no big deal. Yeah, of course. You know, I feel that that plays very well with that mix because everyone takes it as a joke.
Yeah.
You know, they take it as the joke that it is. And so I can kind of play around with that. Makes people laugh. It mixes things up, things like that. So this is like pretty intentional.
Yeah, it brings people in instead of like, ooh, well, maybe I won't compliment that person again.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because the worst thing that you can do, this is what one of my mentors has told me. The worst thing that you can do is punish someone when they do something good for you.
Mm.
You know what I mean? If someone like opens up about their day and then you go like, cool, like whatever, like you're making a big deal out of nothing. Or you start like texting or like anything. Like we take for granted the fact that people like open up to us.
Yeah.
And then we've all heard of families, or maybe we've been a part of families where people don't talk.
Yeah.
And you wonder where that comes from. You know, it didn't just like appear. It's there for a reason. Because people kept on opening up and shut down, shut down, shut down. Like if at the beginning I asked you how your day was and then we didn't like talk at all about that, eventually you go like, wait, why is he asking me? Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't like care. Like I just said like, whoa, this like terrible thing happened. What did you say?
Yeah. I said, or I'd just be like, yeah, it was fine. Like after that, I would never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what we do. Like when people say, how are you? You just say good.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you don't believe that the average person actually wants to hear how you are.
Yeah.
And like I don't either. Yeah. And they don't. You know what I mean? And so it's not necessarily a bad belief to have. It's unfortunate that that's kind of how things are, but it is how things are. But where there is the possibility for genuine connection, we should make sure that like that stays that way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to feel alone, and it's going to be because we've slowly been burning bridges by like things that you're saying of going like, hey, you look really nice today, Kabrina. Oh, thanks. No, I don't. In whatever way that like takes form.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's like kind of what we're saying. Like, hey, please don't tell me this. I'm super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Then they won't. Like you already know. Like you've already said. So, but this is cool. This is cool.
Yeah.
So I think we've kind of rounded that out pretty squarely.
Yeah, I think so too.
What else is kind of top of mind for you?
Let's see. So I feel like I need to come up with some strategies.
Okay. Hey, that's my middle name. I don't know why they did the plural. I could understand like Josue strategy Feliciano, like maybe. It's a little eccentric. But plural, I don't know, it seems like a bit much, but hit me. What kind of strategies are we talking about here?
So I feel like I have created an obsession and I'm trying to like low key break it.
Okay.
But I know that time will also break it.
Mm-hmm.
But right now it's not helpful. Like time is great. But time isn't what I'm dealing with right now.
Yeah.
So I feel like whenever I see vehicles that are like my ex's vehicle, it just like drives me bonkers.
Yeah.
Like it literally is an obsession. And so it's at first it was just like, oh, that's a, his type of vehicle and the color of his vehicle.
Yeah.
And so, and I would just be like, I would just be like, oh, is that him?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but now it's like any blue car. Like it doesn't matter what color shade it is. It doesn't matter that it's not the make of his car.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even always a car. It could be a van that's the same color.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it just, I think I don't want it to be an obsession.
Yeah.
But it is because I drive the highway every day, obviously to work and back. And like I pass his, like where he lives and everything like that. So it's it's possible that
Sure.
I would see
Sure.
his car.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also not that possible that I'm going to see him on the highway every
Mm-hmm.
morning and
Yeah.
every afternoon. And so like it literally is to the point where I'm like, I see a car, and I just like I have to see who's driving it, and then I'll be like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously that's not him. That's not the right
Sure.
ethnicity, or like,
Sure. Just like whatever.
you know. But it's just
Yeah.
like the other. I think it was maybe it was a couple weeks ago. I don't remember. It was like last week. But I like saw a car behind me that I was like, that could be him, even though it really wouldn't make sense that it was him.
Mm-hmm.
But then I like kind of started obsess over it until like the car drove by me,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew it wasn't him,
Mm-hmm.
but I still had this like rage to like chase this car, and I had to like stop myself. I was like, that's ridiculous.
Sure.
But then like this morning I was driving, and I kept like trying to tell myself like, stop looking every time you see that color of a car. Like, stop.
Mm-hmm.
Try not to.
Mm-hmm.
Until like one went by, and I'm like 90% sure it probably wasn't him, but it also very much could have been him. It looked like him. It was his car type. The person was wearing a hat. Like, it genuinely, definitely could have been him.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like broke down, and I was like, okay, this is like a problem. It's been several months.
Sure.
And I'm still like so hyper fixated on these types of cars and these colors, and it's frustrating. Like, I don't even want to drive. So yeah, so if I could like come up with like strategies of some sort that would like help, so I just don't search. Like, look those cars, or any car that's that the color of his car would be helpful.
Sure. Definitely.
I don't really know where to start.
Hey, that's okay. No, it totally makes sense. What's great is I have some things in mind. So we at least have like hope. And my track record has been good so far.
Yes.
So let's check it out. You know what I mean? But before we get into the actual strategy, I want to like level with you and let you know I've been there too. And I don't say that to be like, oh, like, wow, we're so similar. But I also don't want you to feel like, well, I'm just this weirdo. It's been months and I'm still like, for me, it was like Dodge Grand Caravans. Like after a certain year, they like very much changed. So like, I guess I think the still current model of Dodge Grand Caravans, I would like get really angry.
Yeah.
And I would like play out. Yeah. Well, I would play out fantasies like I'm going to slash that person's tires. And it's like not the same color. I'm not in the same state. Like it's not the same person. I know that. I was like mad at the car.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. And this was more than months since like we broke up. You know what I mean? And so I want you to know, like, it's not just you. You know what I mean? If you're a weirdo, I am too. That's just how it is. You know what I mean? We have to deal with that. And that's what we're going to do, hopefully, right now. If you've made it this far into the session, then you're probably thinking something like, man, I wish I could do that. Well, the great news is you can. For a limited time, I am offering 5 free coaching sessions to anyone who joins my school community. It only takes about 5 minutes to sign up, and it's completely free. So if you're ready to make a meaningful, positive change in your life, then click or tap the top link in the description to get started. Now, back to the session. It's not just you. You know what I mean? If you're a weirdo, I am too. That's just how it is. You know what I mean? We have to deal with it. And that's what we're going to do, hopefully, right now. So, they're kind of like, the strategy, I think, is made up of like kind of 2 shells, so to speak. And we're going to go from the outside in. So the first thing is something that we've talked about before, which is the idea that, well, actually, let me ask you. Let's see. I'm going to put you on the spot. We talked about this, I think, last time. Like why I put you on the spot. And if you don't know, I'm not going to like make this a prolonged thing. I'm just going to ask and then I'll tell you. Okay. So don't worry. But the question is, what is the definition that I've given you of patience?
Oh, goodness.
Ooh.
I know that I know it, but I'm very like hyped up on my emotions.
That's okay. Okay, bad time to ask, but so I'll just tell you. No big deal. Patience is figuring out what to do in the meantime.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So right now, you're in the recall stage. Like if I say it, you go, yeah, that's it. You could pick it out of a lineup. Eventually, you'll get to the point where you can tell me, and that's okay. We're just checking. Yeah, you got this. You have the 8 aspects down. You had it down last time. So patience is figuring out what to do in the meantime. So we're going to figure out what to do in the meantime. We're going to tie that in with another like idea that we've talked about, which is that our brain is kind of like 2 different brains. We have the intellectual brain, the logical brain, and then we have the emotional brain. Right? Those are the kind of the 2 sides. The logical brain can act very quickly. It can go like, yeah, like these are the things at play. And now that there are new things at play, now that, like I described it before, as like, it's kind of like there's a table and it goes like, hey, what's on the table? And when, kind of these are the pieces I can play with. Oh, there's a new piece on the table. Sounds good. I'll take that into consideration. Oh, there's a piece that's been taken off. Sounds good. That's out of the equation. How does that change things? Right? That's kind of a medium resolution kind of understanding on what the logical brain looks like, whereas the emotional brain is just kind of like water. You know what I mean? And like if you're in the ocean, you can be standing in the same place and like the temperature of the water can just change like randomly. You're just kind of standing there like, how did that happen? I don't know. This was somewhere there. Yeah, it is cool. But it's not like something you can really control.
Yeah.
It's just like stuff is happening in the ocean. All sorts of different things are all affecting this all at once. So, I think I did a worse job at explaining that one than the previous one, but you get it.
Yeah.
And so it's not that when you we're not dealing with the logical brain here. Because it isn't the case that like when you see that it's a different model or a different make or a different shade or it's not even a car that you go, cool, I don't have to worry about this anymore.
Nope. My head still goes, whoop, I gotta check.
Yeah. We're very much dealing with the emotional brain right now. Yeah. And so if we want to fix it, we have to play around in the emotional arena. Right? So we're going to see if we can tie these 2 things together. There's actually one more piece, because you mentioned like, hey, don't do this. But if I tell you don't think about like pink elephants, the first thing that comes to mind, yeah, like it's really hard to actively not do something.
Yeah.
Right? And there's an analogy that my dad would use that in this case I'll adapt, which is if we have like, this is a bad habit. This is like what we're talking about here is a bad habit. And so let's imagine that we have like a empty plastic cup. And the air, it represents bad habits, right? It's just kind of there by default. How do we take out that bad habit? If we turn the cup upside down, the air is still there. If we crush it, there's still a little bit of air in there. How do we take it out? The way that we take it out, do you know?
You have to fill it?
You have to fill it, exactly. You have to replace it. It's not that you can just like vacuum it out, right? And so we need to replace the habit of looking for cars with something else.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about changing the environment and things like that. There's like the possibility that we could say like, hey, like drive a different route. But if we do that, that could mean longer times to work. That could mean it being unfamiliar. There are just all sorts of other things where it's like, if this is bad enough, then we can consider that. But I think there's a better thing that we can do before then.
Okay.
And what I think that is getting into some sort of podcast or audiobook. And it has to activate you emotionally. Because remember, we're not dealing with the logical brain. And so like, I wouldn't want to do something like you listening and learning about like mathematics.
Ew.
Right? Like, I don't think you want to do that anyway. But like, I mean, I don't want it to be like a big educational experience unless whatever you're learning about is something that you're like on an emotional level also just interested in.
Okay.
Right? And so it can be like an educational podcast, but it needs to be something that you just go like, I'm not learning about this because I have to. I'm not learning about this because it's good for me, because we talked about the two filters where we don't want to pay attention to what's good for you. We don't want to pay attention to the broccoli. We want to pay attention to that mix, or maybe not even that mix, but just something you enjoy that is going to like distract you. We could do this with a playlist of songs. If there's a playlist of songs that is like upbeat, that gets you like just going, you kind of get into like a flow state. That could work too. So you have 3 options here, right? It could be a podcast, an audiobook, or a playlist of songs. The benefits, I want to just touch on the benefits, I think, of the 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And like some drawbacks. A podcast may be the best one because it's going to give you something novel, and they're like really long running. So if you can find a podcast that really works for you, then cool. Then you've like hit it. You may want to choose an audiobook or a playlist before then as you're searching for a podcast. And I would suggest searching for these things not on your drive.
Yeah.
Right? Find it beforehand, because you don't dig a well when you're thirsty. Right? Because if you start listening to a podcast, you like set it up. Let's say you like don't want to mess with your phone while you're driving, but the podcast stinks. You're going to turn it off, and then your eyes are going to go looking for blue cars.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? And so, like in the evening when you've come back from work, that's when you go, cool, time to podcast hunt. And I think we've talked about dopaminergic circuitry before, where like when you are expecting something good and it doesn't happen, you then like go below baseline in terms of your mood.
Yeah.
Right? And so we want to combat that. Whether you're doing audiobooks, whether you're doing podcasts, and podcasts are the main ones for this, I would say. So let's just keep on playing around with that. Let's say you're listening to a podcast and you go, this is a dud. This is not going to work. Like, I don't like this person's voice. I don't like this one co-host. Their sense of humor just doesn't really vibe with me, like whatever it may be. You go, I can't do this. That's okay. But I would suggest trying at most 3 podcasts a night, or like whenever you're going to do this, do like 3 podcasts. Okay. And if you find one that works, then great. Then like you found one that works, and it works until it doesn't. But the reason that I put the specifics there for this is because when you do those 3 podcasts, even if you listen to only 5 minutes of each and you just go, these suck, you can still at the end of that go, but I did it. Mm-hmm. It's exactly like looking at the scenic overlook. The result is like bad in a sense. Because I say in a sense because it's still valuable to know what doesn't work just as much as what does work.
Yeah.
We want what does work because then we don't have to do this anymore.
That's true.
But knowing that it doesn't work, having a better understanding, learning more about yourself. You went, wow, I thought I would like this podcast and I don't. And being really intentional and going, this is what I didn't like, can then help guide you to what will work a lot quicker.
So are you saying to listen to like a bit of it, like if I'm trying to pick them, or I'm listening to them like on my drive to decide if I like them?
So I would suggest listening to them like not on your drive.
Okay, beforehand.
At least for now, yeah.
For a couple minutes to see if I'm feeling it.
Well, and what I would say is 3 is the maximum, not the minimum.
Okay.
So like, let's say tonight after this this session, I'd suggest at least finding 1. If you can do 3, cool. But let's say on the first one, you go, whoa, this is actually really good. Like 40 minutes have passed. I didn't even notice. Like especially if you find something like that, where you lose time, this is good in this case. Because you're just really enthralled in what you're listening to. And I can give you some examples that may interest you. I said some examples. I have like one that I feel comfortable saying. I'll tell you a couple. I don't think one of them is going to be up your alley at all, but I'll give it to you just in case, and we'll see. But you want, like, that's the sure sign. That's the win condition. When you lose time, you're like, whoa, we're already at the end of the episode. There's like an hour and a half. Sheesh. Perfect. Right? So, but yeah, you don't have to worry about finding the 3 because that is a goal that we have, but it's a secondary goal. We don't want to lose the focus, which is just finding the one that you're going to stick to for the long haul. It doesn't have to be forever either. It doesn't have to be the perfect podcast. You know, I listened to like 200 plus episodes of a podcast, and then they got a new co-host, and he was super annoying, and so I just stopped. But that was hundreds upon hundreds of hours that I got to occupy my brain, and things are cool. True. Got to learn, got to be entertained. So we're not looking for the perfect thing. We're just looking for the thing that works. Right? Another option is we're going to be reading books in the community. And so you can just audiobook these things. No biggie. You know? I'm also going to be opening up the floor, like a suggestion box, to people who have read certain books who go like, whoa, this is really cool. This seems to fit with the community. We should try this out. So you could start listening to books preemptively and check those and go like, hey, would this be worth it?
Yeah, that would be cool.
The thing about that is that it can be expensive, especially if you're getting into audiobooks.
Yeah.
But what's great about it is that YouTube has an insane amount of audiobooks completely for free. And so if you...
I don't know why I didn't know that, but I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's insane. I'm a part of another community, and I'm not going to say the specific book and whatever it may be, because whatever. Because then it's going to like disappear. Like with my luck, it's going to disappear, and I'm going to go, oh my goodness, why did I say this? And I finished it, but like I wanted to stay. But the community leader was like, hey, we're going to be reading this book. That same day, I checked, it was there in full. And so like, and it's like a book that came out maybe 5 years ago.
Okay. I
think that there may be some legality issues. But I think it's only illegal for the person who posted it, not for you to listen to. That's just on YouTube. So, so any book or any author that you've gone like, I've always wanted to this is your sign. You know? And I can give you some author suggestions too. Let's get to these suggestions. Yeah? Mm-hmm. The one that I don't think is going to be up your alley like at all is the last podcast on the left. This is the wild card one. Okay. This is a true crime podcast. All sorts of crazy stuff. You got cults. You have serial killers. They also mix in like aliens and UFOs and supernatural stuff and mythological stuff. Like there's a real big hodgepodge of stuff in there. I'm pretty selective with the ones that I like to listen to. I'm really interested in cults, for example, or at least I was. Not nearly as much anymore, but I was for a while. And so you can check that.
Kind of fascinates me a little bit too.
Yeah. And so what's great about this one, what makes it a head above all the other podcasts that I've listened to, that kind of like touch on these topics, is that they make all of it super funny. And so you're not like tense and going like, oh my goodness, that's so gruesome. Like they'll do that, but then they'll like do a little skit that like makes it funny because they're all improv comedians. And so it just kind of works. Cool. Yeah. There are 3 hosts, and it is difficult to differentiate between them at first. But by your 3rd or 4th episode, you're going to go, yeah, I know who Marcus is. Yeah, I know who Henry is. And you'll like figure it out. Like it's fine. Pretty funny stuff. Highly suggest it. Another one that may be more up your alley, that I like just as much, if not more, is, I think it's Where Should We Begin by Esther Perel. Have you heard of her?
Mm-mm.
Okay. She's a French mental health counselor.
Oh, neat.
And she has 2 podcasts. Where Should We Begin is on relationships, and How's Work is about work. But what she does is she'll do like couples counseling. Sometimes it's actual couples counseling, and sometimes for like the work people, it's just like, hey, we're business partners and we're like dealing with issues. And what she'll do is she does one session with these people, like a single session. And in that single session, the amount of like stuff that they're able to go through together is insane. I don't know what she does. But she has some sort of magic. It's really cool the way she gets people to open up to her and just talk about things. And you get to like be front row seat to that. And so I really like it. Yeah. You get to learn about, you get to learn about people. It's an emotional experience and things like that. So if you want to talk about like getting into your emotions about things, and it's about situations you've never been in. And so it's cool because at least for me, it's been difficult for me to go like, wow, this reminds me of like my past relationship. I just go like, wow, this is just cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, those are the 2 main ones. I don't think you're interested in like nerd culture.
Not really, no offense, but
yeah. It's fine. The one I was going to suggest is the worst of the 3. But you already have 3. You could check out How's Work as well. I prefer the other one, but I've also only ever listened to 1 episode of How's Work, and so like don't count it out. Try it out. Those are 3 podcasts you can listen to in one night if you would just want to tick them off real quick. So that gets you started. When it comes to audiobooks, we've talked about It's Not Always Depression.
Yeah, I think so.
The book that is by Hilary Jacobs Hendel. You don't have to write that down. The thing that will really stick is It's Not Always Depression. That you may want to write down.
Yeah. I've written that down before, but I need to be actually intentional and actually look it up.
It's really good. And we're probably going to read it as a group at some point. Because I want to like circulate through all of the different aspects of total wellness. And I have not found a better book when it comes to emotion. And so I think that is probably the top recommendation that I can give to you. It can be a little intense, but she even says at the beginning of the book, this is written not only for counselors, but also just for like people who want to have a better understanding of their own emotion. And so you can like deep dive into that. And I think that that'll really personally connect to you.
Yeah.
And so you're going to get emotionally invested into like the learning and going, wow, this is so practical. Wow, this is explained so well. Wow, I relate to that. Whether it be about emotionally processing this breakup or about anything else. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. An author that I've wanted to get into that I haven't is Brené Brown. And I think that may interest you as well.
Okay.
Let's see. How do you feel about sci-fi?
I'm open to it.
Okay. Then this is a very like I'm recommending this to you more because I like it than necessarily because I think you will like it. So like read the synopsis and things like that or whatever it may be. But I really like the book Ender's Game. And the audiobook, and the audiobook that they have of that, phenomenal. The voice acting, and that's what it is. It's not just narration. They have multiple people playing different characters. So it feels a lot more like a radio drama or something like that. Very cool. Super emotional story. And though it's sci-fi, it's not just like, oh, robots and aliens and pew pew and like all these like what I would say is the typical sci-fi experience. I don't like that stuff. This book goes, yeah, they're sci-fi, but that's so that we can tell our very emotional and like cerebral story. It's very cool. I don't want to inundate you with too much. And so I'd rather you try those things, or at least look at, when it comes to the books, don't like buy, but like just read about it and see. Okay. Like, whoa, yeah, that really does pique my interest. I think it's not always depression is an easy purchase for you.
Yeah.
Just going to throw that out there.
Yeah.
But for these other ones, check it out. See, because this is a money investment. One of the good things about having an investment is going, now I really have to like get the value out of this. Right? I can't just like, I guess I won't do it. I guess I'll go back to cards. It's like, I paid money for this.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how much it is. Let's just pretend it. I paid $26 for this. I'm getting $26 worth out of this. And so it's not a bad thing that it costs if you can't find it for free.
Yeah. It is interesting the
Mm-hmm.
times where I've like paid for audiobooks versus like, oh, this one's like a free one. Like I rarely would finish the free ones, but the ones that like I actually paid for, I would like listen to them.
Yeah. And you pay attention because like you paid.
Yep.
So, yeah. So try out those things. See what you think. We can like message about things and go like, hey, like I liked this aspect of this, but I didn't like this. Or, hey, I really liked this. Do you have something that is similar to this? Then I can do some of that research for you if I don't already have something in my back pocket. You know?
Okay.
Yeah. With this kind of strategy that we've talked about, do you feel like there's like some real solid hope about going like, I think this could really help me handle what I've been experiencing?
Yeah, I do. I think that if I can pick one that distracts me enough, that I'm invested in enough,
yeah,
that my brain isn't going to wander as much. Because like just when I play music, it's not distracting enough.
Sure.
I do think when I was playing my audiobook like a couple weeks ago, that was like that really helped. I was really into it. I was really listening. So I do think that these podcasts will help if I find one that I like.
Yeah. And what's great is whenever I do drift off, like I'll be like getting into what's being talked about more than the actual words. And sometimes I'll just kind of like go off into La La Land. And then I come back and I go, dang it. I have to like rewind and figure out like where I was and things like that. And so this kind of works as another, on top of like you paying, if you do, when it comes to an audiobook. On top of that, there is that thing of like, I have to zero in, otherwise, you know, I deal with this aspect of it that's just kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think it'll be good. I'm excited to try it. I think the more that it's become like a low-key obsession, it's just like, oh, I don't like this. Yeah. Even though I've heard like some people say like the more you try not to think of something or do something, like the more you do it.
Yeah.
So there's also that aspect that it's like, do I, replace it and like I hope this works, or do I just like be like Kabrina, like just think about it, try not to stop. But then it's like, but I don't know if that's healthy either. So
yeah, what I say is go on like a completely different plane, like on a different axis. You're talking about like a spectrum here that goes like from left to right, and on one end it's think about it on purpose, and on the other end it's like fight against thinking about it. And I'm saying, hey, let's not even play on that line. Forget all that.
They're totally different.
Yeah, you're talking 2D. Let's go 3D. You know what I mean? Where you like lose that line. You're not even thinking about it. Not because you're trying not to, but because, like with the empty cup, you're actively replacing it with something else.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I like that. I do think it'll be helpful.
Yeah.
I'm ready to be able to drive and not be like stressed to drive. Not like it, I don't know. It can be a lot when you're driving in the car for like 34 minutes every morning. You're just like,
sure.
And then 34 minutes in the afternoon. You're just like, yeah.
If you're focused on that the entire time, yeah. Of course. What's really cool about this, and I want to kind of like future pace this, is what it's called. About like, hey, this is what's going to happen in the future that you can look forward to. You are going to go like a significant period of time, and then you're going to remember back to when you used to be obsessive. You're going to see a blue car and go like, huh, I used to like notice that, and I've been behind a blue car for like almost this entire drive. Thought hasn't come to me once. That's when you're going to really like hammer home the win and go like, sheesh, this is really good. But at the same time, I'm telling you now, it's going to be a small win. And I say that because of the fact that that's how emotionally distant you're going to be from it.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's a small win is a good thing. Because you just be like, cool, no biggie. Like, that's not a part of who I am. Like, doesn't matter. It's like, cool. Like, that's nice.
Yeah. I've been there in the past because it used to be Buick Encores, white Buick Encores. Could not. Like, I saw them everywhere. Couldn't handle it. And, like, I was getting really frustrated at it. And now, like, I rarely even notice they exist. Like, genuinely. Like, occasionally I'll see one, I'll be like, oh, look.
Yeah.
Hey, so just like that vehicle, you know? Yeah. And so it really is freeing. And I know that I'll get there in this situation too. But, yeah, it's just reality of right now.
Yeah. And, like, part of this is definitely, we're just running out the clock. Like, as time goes on, we will emotionally distance ourselves from what is in the past. No matter what it is. Both for the good and the bad. And so, again, this is the time where we're leveraging the good of that. And going, we just have to run out the clock.
Yeah.
You know? And we're going to do that. What's great is that we're going to do that while being entertained and while being educated. Like, we're going to become better people along the way, which is dope.
Yeah, it is.
Like, it doesn't get better than that. Let's go. You know? That was a great session, wasn't it? Well, it's not over. If you'd like to listen to the entire session between Kabrina and I, then you'll have to join my school community. But what is school? Well, it's kind of like a social media platform. But instead of it being all about creating the perfect profile, it's more focused on building real, supportive communities. I've partnered up with school to offer some pretty cool things, such as 30-day challenges with prizes, weekly group calls, and one-on-one coaching. The best part? All of that is free. So, if you're interested, then go to the top link in the description to begin. For now, here's a sneak peek at the rest of my session with Kabrina.
The other thing that's been frustrating to me is like my sleep. My body literally is like ready to go to sleep at like 8:30. I just wake up at like 3 a.m. I wake up at 3:30. I wake up at 4. I wake up at 4:35. Like, it's like this thing. I'm like, do I just get up? Like, I literally am waking up like angry. Like, I'm frustrated.
Sure, yeah.
And, like my body's just not sleeping.